up your engine! Right, we got a fascinating one today. EcoBoost F-150. Dual turbos, GDI injection. And what happens to this poor soldier? We go down the road, no response. Step on the electronic throttle, it won't do anything. All kinds of lights come on. He's got to pull over. When he shuts it off, you can turn it back on again. It'll start running again, but then it'll do it all over again. Now, he's only owned it for a month, and it's done it for the last 2 weeks. I noticed it has an add-on cold air intake. He didn't put it on, it came that way. The guy before him put it on. Might have something to do with that, but who knows? We're gonna start with a simple scan tool and work our way up. So we'll plug the basic scan tool in first and see what happens. My model is start simple and work your way up if need be. And look how fast this baby was. P2112, throttle actuator A, control system stuck closed. Let's see when it happened. Okay, here's the freeze frame. It happened. The engine was going 1127 RPMs and it was going 43 kilometers an hour. Okay, so that's 20 something miles an hour when it tripped the code. Here's the throttle assembly. 1, 2, and under there, 3, 4 bolts. That's what needs replacing. Now, this one's old enough, 2015. I've done tons of them. You don't even have to reprogram them. You put them on a vehicle, you take the battery terminals off, you put them back on, start it up, drive around for 15, 20 minutes, stop and go AC on, AC off. It'll normally equilibrate itself and run totally fine. Now, if it doesn't, you'll have to take it to a guy like me to reprogram the idle relearn and everything. But on these Fords, I've had real good luck just replacing them and driving away. I got the old phone. AutoZone sells one for 116. The dealer wanted 191. I say try the AutoZone. What the heck? If it doesn't work, you can always give it back. They have very liberal return policies. Then go put a Ford one on. It's a known flaw with these things, but they never really recalled them for it. Kind of an interesting thing. Ford's always had a lot of problems with these electronic throttles. But being a Ford, not much money. If this was a BMW, you'd be looking northward of $1,000 for the part then. And you would have to reprogram it. And nobody reprograms BMWs cheap. Now, even if you don't have a scan tool, here's a tip that anybody can use in any modern car with these electronic throttles. Realize, when you step on the gas, it's like you're stepping on a computer mouse. It just sends an electrical impulse to the computer. Then the computer looks at all the data it gets, sees what your input is, and decides how wide it should open the throttle electronically. And 9 times out of 10 on any car, especially these Fords, you step on the gas, the lights come on, and it won't accelerate, and it just sits there. That means that system isn't working anymore. It can be the accelerator pedal sensor that you step on, or it can be the throttle itself. Well, in this case, it's a known flaw, and the code was for it was stuck shut. And these have decent software in them. If it had been the accelerator pedal, it would have shown that there was a problem in that the data was wrong, and it would have talked about the accelerator sensor and not the actual throttle itself where the plate was closed. So he's gonna fix it himself. He's a soldier, he's got hands. It's not rocket science. All you need is a little 10mm socket kit for this one. It's not hard to do when you get the knowledge. That's why, hey, if you're gonna work on your own car, get a decent scan tool like that. That particular one's about $325. But you can see it gives some really good information. That isn't just some simple trouble code like P0114. That gets into the computer electronics, and it explained it all out in common language. And you saw, it took like 10 seconds to figure it out. Which is rather ironic, because they took it to the Ford dealer and they said they couldn't find what was wrong with it. Now, unfortunately, I see this all the time these days because they're paying the mechanics less and less, and the owners are making more and more. And when there's that kind of a lag between who's actually fixing it and the owner taking money in, hey, creates bad scenarios. They told me at the dealer that it was out of warranty. The check engine light wasn't on at the time, so they said, hey, well, we don't know what's wrong with it. Well, come on, here's a guy's putting his life on the line in the Army, and the Ford dealer won't even do what I just did. That, as you saw, it took less than 3 minutes to figure out what was wrong with it. And here we have Henry Ford's insignia with the American flag. Old Henry would be rolling in his grave if he saw one of his customers treated like this. So now you know a little bit about how to fix throttle problems in an F-150 And Ford Motor Company, how about a little more compassion here? Well, Scotty's doing this for nothing, to help people out. You guys run a business. He was willing to pay if they'd fix it. They just said, oh, we don't know what we do. We can't fix it. What a bunch of nonsense. Get your business in order if you want to take care of people correctly. He loves a truck. He likes the way it looks. He likes a four-wheel drive. But he doesn't like the fact that it stalls while he's going down the road and the dealer says they don't know what's wrong with it. Or even worse, they said, well, your check engine light isn't on, so we can't figure out what's wrong. Come on now. You know, maybe some kid who's 16 who doesn't know anything about cars will say that, but you got professional mechanics that are supposed to be able to analyze this stuff. And if I can figure it out in 3 minutes, hey, you shouldn't treat people like that. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Crush on Tie says, when should I change my serpentine belt? Okay, I used to call them fan belts. Everybody calls them serpentine belts now. They wear out, but they wear out in strange ways these days. The serpentine belts, if you look at it and the inside's cracked, definitely time to change it, right? In the olden days, they didn't have serpentine belts. You just had a one groove belt and it was cracked. It was time to change it. Here's the weird thing about serpentine belts though. As they wear, what happens is the grooves get deeper. So it's not like they get wore out and get thin. The grooves actually get deeper, but they're made to sit at a certain depth. And when they go deeper, then they sit on the edge instead of the whole way of the pulley, and they're worn out. A true mechanic, myself, I got a little plastic gauge and you stick it on the belt while it's on the vehicle. And if you can wiggle it back and forth, that means it's grooved too much and it's time to replace it. You might have that checked. Now, if you don't want to go through all that trouble, and let's say it's 7, 8 years old, go ahead and change it now. It's dry rotted and you need a new one anyways. They don't cost much. You can watch my videos how to replace fan belts on your car. Learn how to do it yourself. It's not rocket science. And some guys, I had a customer in Houston, they wanted like $250 to change fan belts out. I said, you buy the belts, I'll put them on for $25. It's a nothing job. Maynard Izquierdo says, is the Nissan Maxima a reliable car? Depends on which one you're talking about. Back decades ago, they were very reliable cars. I had customers get 250, 300,000 miles. The newer ones, not as much. They're not horrible cars. Like if you bought one brand new, you can overpay because they cost too much money. But let's say you bought a brand new one. You buy a brand new one, it's going to probably be relatively trouble-free the first 100,000 miles. They're decent made cars most of the time. But it's not like a Toyota that you could buy and maybe get 300,000 relatively trouble-free mileage out of it. Depends on what you want. They used to be really great cars. But don't go, take my advice, from like 2009 to say 2017, don't buy a used one from those years. They had a lot of problems. That was after Renault, the French company, bought up Nissan and their quality went, don't buy one of those used, you'd be making a big mistake. Chris Lenny says, my father passed away and left behind a 03 350 Super Duty 6-liter diesel with 98,000 miles. The engine cranks okay, but broken and chewed wires from a squirrel or a mouse. What you want to do is, it doesn't cost all that much. You can join alldataDIY.com. It's 20-something bucks. You'll get all the wiring harness for that truck, and you can just rewire the wiring. With 98,000 miles on it, that diesel truck's got a lot of life. I got a customer who's got 350 on it. Now, sometimes eventually the transmissions will go out before the engines. But even then, let's say you get 250K out of a transmission. You still got a lot of mileage because that's only got 90-something. And you can get a Ford rebuilt tranny and put it in and keep it running. Don't get rid of that truck. Get yourself a wiring diagram and rewire the stuff. They only bite so much wires. It's very easy to cut wires, splice new wire in, solder it in, put a heat shrink tape, heat it up, and then it seals it so water can't get in. It's not rocket science. And realize all the wires are color-coded, green with yellow, red with blue, so they always are easy to splice back in. The mice certainly didn't nibble the whole way to nothing, so there's always some wire left so you can match up the colors. Sugar Cane says, 1977 El Camino, I just bought one. Well, have fun with it. I hope you got the V8 because those are the ones that are worth money. The V6s are worth nothing, and even the 350s aren't worth that much. You want the big block V8, and if you do, they're collector's items. Now, I hope you looked at it before you bought it because those are notorious rust buckets. Now, unless you're in Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, where they don't rust much, you always want to check the frames, and especially under the seats, because a lot of times they rust out there. I hope you checked before and you didn't buy a rust bucket, because then you're going to have problems. They did have a tendency of rusting quite a bit. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.